10 years, 2019-2029. This is the period during which the Society of Jesus is inspired by 4 universal apostolic preferences. We call them UAPs. Jesuits in formation from all over the world will discuss this with their Superior General, Father Arturo Souza. Welcome, Father Arturo, and welcome to all of you. Happy Easter season. I am Pierre Bélanger, Jesuit, the journalist of the General Curia, and I'm happy to welcome you for the second and last part of an encounter between Jesuits in formation and Father General. Last week, Father General was here with 6 young Jesuits who were wondering why and how the Universal Apostolic Preferences could renew their call, their Jesuit vocation, their Jesuit mission. Today, we invite you to continue this conversation about the UAPs and to continue what we have said during this premiere that we did last week. All of you who are here today will have the opportunity to ask some questions. Here, if you are in this aula, you can raise your hand and we might bring you a microphone. If you are anywhere in the world, don't hesitate to use the function that is called live chat in the Zoom, the program that you're using at the moment. Please note, your questions must be short and precise. And Father General has promised that his answers would also be brief. I could help him if necessary, so that we can give the opportunity to as many people as possible to intervene. In a 1-hour program, we might not have the time to deal with all the questions, but please feel free, those who are far away, to send in your questions. We will make a special effort to include a variety of questions from different parts of the world. So we are ready? Let's go. We start with a question that we received because we received a few questions after last week's program. So, Father Arturo, someone asked, is God calling yet less young men to become Jesuit brothers? Or are we not just listening to God? Well, in fact, how could we attract more people to understand the religious life of a brother?
Beginning with recalling that the Society of Jesus is a religious order. And that's the main point I want to make, because we pray for having vocations, and when we pray for vocation, we pray for vocation for Jesuits, brothers and priests. So my question is if we are really projecting that image of being a religious life where brothers have a big and attractive space. Maybe if we revise ourselves and our way of presenting our vocation, we can find some clerical approach or too much clerical approach to that. And I hope that we can change on that. That was the intention in my letter last year, asking the society to promote the vocation for the society, first of all praying, but of giving that image of corpus apostolicus, an apostolic body that really can have religious persons, priests and brothers, and others who collaborate in the same mission. So I think we have to make a step in that direction, and I hope we can do it soon.
Thank you. We are asked to enter into the spirit of the Universal Apostolic Preferences. But at the same time, more recently, Pope Francis has asked the whole church, including us, to enter into another channel, I would say, a church of synodality. Do you see some connections between these two objectives that we are trying to live?
Absolutely. Because I see Pope Francis didn't invent the synodality. The synodality is a dimension of the church since the very beginning of the church. But especially from the Second Vatican Council. So it's the same call. And it's the Pope Francis who is calling us to the universal apostolic preferences. Both universal apostolic preferences and synodality are based in the desire of listening as a community to the Spirit. And that's what we try to do within the society, with the Christian community, and with the church, and with the world. So synodality really, the universal apostolic preference cannot be understood without being part of this process of making the church really a community where everyone has a possibility to feel the signs of the times and to feel the voice of the Spirit, and to together go ahead with the guide of the Spirit.
I take a third one that we received already, but don't hesitate to raise your hand. And it's in relationship also to how to live the UAPs. And I quote the question: "In my province, some guys are very skeptical about the UAPs. How do we change this and encourage them to believe in this?"
Live in yourself. Let the skeptics go ahead. Skepticism is not a rare attitude in humanity and in the society of Jesus. So what are you living is not what the others are living. You have to live yourself. What are you want to live? So the UAPs are for every one of us. We cannot change the others if we don't change ourselves. No, the first task is to really embody in myself, in my community, in my apostolic work. And I think young Jesuits in formation have a special task here. No, most young people in the society really perceive that this is the call of the Lord, and you start to live in spiritually in communities and in apostolic works this kind of a spirit of the apostolic preferences. You will be contagious, not only for COVID, but for the universal apostolic preference. We want a lot of young people that can contagious each other with the universal apostolic preferences.
I don't see anything on my screen coming from Manila or Santiago de Chile, so if you're far away like this, don't feel far away. Be with us. I have a first question here from the aula.
Padre General, ¿cómo conjugar la vivencia de la primera preferencia de mostrar el camino hacia Dios y de acompañar a los jóvenes en un contexto de creciente secularismo y también de algunas tendencias dentro de la iglesia y a veces dentro de la compañía de líneas más tradicionales que insisten en una identidad más fuerte?
How do the first preference and the third one go together in the context of secularization and with some also traditionalist trends in the church and society?
Well, the first preferences ask us to offer the opportunity to many people to see the path to God, and with two instruments especially, discernment and spiritual exercises. So the first preference is for us is the challenge to create the opportunities to be converted. It's a conversion, no? So everyone, traditionalist and progressist, and the center of the everyone needs to convert itself. So if we really offer exercises, if we really expand the capacity of discernment in our Christian community, in our community and religious community, we will put all together, because the third preference that says that we have to listen to the young people means that we, with the church, are aware that in this moment of the humanity, young people could be a better voice of the Spirit than other generations because also connected with the fourth preferences and the second preference. Young people are poor. Majority of young people are poor. Majority of young people is really concerned about what's happening with the environment, and young people is in the process of making new ways in their life. So they are interconnected, and this is the instrument of the exercises, and the practice of discernment can really make a difference.
How can young Jesuits really have an influence? You're talking about the influence that young Jesuits can have, but some could apparently have some doubts. How could Jesuits in formation help their own province to integrate the vision of the UAPs, to integrate it in the dreaming of the province? Because many provinces have a plan, planning, and sometimes it's not so easy to see the links between the great plan of the General Curia, that are the universal apostolic preferences, and the local or regional plan.
The third preference is a challenge within the society, and it's not for others only. No, we have to make the exercises and to lead the exercise of listen the young people within the society, the young Jesuits, and it's not always easy, no? Especially in the provinces. That there are many different situations, but provinces where there are many, it's only a small group of young Jesuits, that's a difficulty. But in other provinces where there are a lot of young Jesuits, maybe the old Jesuits thinks that they have to teach the young, not to enter in a dialogue. That tension between recreating the life of the society we have as old people like me, we have the responsibility of transmitting the charisms of the society, but we are not the proprietaries we are not the owners of the charisms. You have received the charisms at the same time I have received. So we need to promote within the society a real dialogue, a dear intergenerational dialogue. And I think it's one of the most interesting characteristics of the Society of Jesus. The Society of Jesus is a multicultural body. No? Here we can see here around this table, but also is an intergenerational body, and if we take advantage of that, making really an intercultural body and a body that can really dialogue between generations, we can respond better to the call of the Spirit.
Thank you. We're starting to get something from elsewhere. When you write a question, if you are in another country, it would be nice to write, maybe to identify your province. It could give us a clue. I have someone here who entered very recently in the society who is writing, Father General, I entered the society in 2020, soon after the UAPs were announced. I will go through much of my formation with them until 2029. So in what way do you think that specifically my formation will be shaped by them?
I hope it would be. I hope, because as you are saying in the question, you joined the society just when the preferences were announced. So when we start the process of understanding to get in that process, and this is one of the challenges we have been talking over this year with the whole groups of Jesuits in formation, how to guarantee that in the formation processes, in all the moments of the formation, you have an access to experience the UAPs and to be formed in the UAPs. For example, in the last dialogue, we were talking about how to guarantee a good knowledge of Ignatian spirituality, and specifically about spiritual exercises and discernment, how you can be trained during your process of formation, so you can really offer this kind of you have this skill and you can offer that path to others.
The next question is more precise, on a precise topic. It says, social media has become a popular and public form of communications. Thinking with the church, how do we maintain unity among these different currents? And, among Jesuits also who are on social media. Because social media go in different ways at the same time, people express different views. How can we find a place for unity in this new communication context?
The unity we are trying to have is the unity in faith. No, that's that's what really can make ourselves a body with one head, and that head is Jesus Christ. So only in the process of being more and more identified with Jesus, we can think we can have a unity of the body. Another font for unity of the society is to share the mission. The mission, but the mission is also so wide that you cannot. This is the mission. The mission is the mission of Jesus, and to make it in a very different ways. The challenge is that really we don't have, and we cannot have. I think it's not ideal to have the same way of thinking, no? Because if we think, we will think different. No, if not, we are just repeating what others already thought. If we think, we will think new things. We'll think different. So the challenge is how this thinking or open new ways of understanding life becomes a dialogue among us, a dialogue with our faith, a dialogue with the gospel, a dialogue with the church. So it's not to impose a way of thinking, but to really feel that also the Spirit can talk through these differences that come out from thinking. We said that one of the dimension of the Jesuit charisms is intellectual depth. So if we really have that kind of charisms, we have to have different opinions, and we have to have different ideas, and we will create new way of seeing. But how this enter in dialogue with our faith, the common faith of the body and of the church.
Another guy is asking you to make another connection, because people need to bring things together. You have asked us in the last few years to reflect upon both about the UAPs and more recently about our vow of poverty. What connection do you see between these two processes of discernment at the moment? Why these two things at the same time?
Well, about the universal apostolic preferences, the discernment is ended, in the sense that we made a very large, very for me very creative discernment all over the world, with also Jesuits and non-Jesuits, and that was being confirmed by the Church, by the Pope. So regarding the universal apostolic preferences, the discernment now is how to live that. So how to live it in each moment of our personal life, community life, apostolic life. So the process is different, no? About the vow of poverty, I think is to take one of the most challenging dimensions of our life. No? Since the beginning of the society, the tension of being followers of Jesus, poor and humble, and have the resources to the mission for the apostolate has been always in tension. And now is the same tension is in all our communities and on all our apostolic works. So the General Congregation 36 asked us to review how we deal with that tension, and saying how we can adapt our way of living our poverty to the new condition of the world and the new finances and the new way of how things goes in the administration of goods in our times. And that is to put the tension there, but to put the tension there from going back to the font of our charism, that is the following Jesus, poor and humble. And that's why the invitation is to go that way. So our poverty, as the exercises said in the meditation of the two standards, poverty is only the first step to go the way of the humility and the virtues. So poverty is almost a condition about the Jesuit and Christian life. So how we live that in our times is to be really humble is the last what we're really seeking with our reflection and our practice of poverty.
Mm-hmm. You were saying that the intergenerational, you were saying that the intergenerational characteristic of the society was something quite positive, but it doesn't seem to be easy to live. For instance, here, speaking of this characteristic, do you have any suggestion for getting older men in our community is interested or to be on board with the UAPs, especially with the UAP number 4 about the care for the common home? I live in a community of mostly older Jesuits, and I find that few of them have any interest in living out this dimension in any intentional way. It's a little tough. What do you do with them?
Well, I think this is a challenge for all of us. It's not only for the elders in the society. I think about the fourth preference about how to really move ourselves in our communities to a more ecological way of living. It's not a tension between young and elders. It's between a style of life and because all of us are so used to use the energy, to use the means we have that we fight with ourselves to be more ecologically, ecological in our life. So again, the first step is to live what we say. We cannot preach to the elders if we don't live differently, if we don't propose. And the second step is not be tired. You have to go once, another. Don't tire of trying to do little steps in converting our life in a more ecological or more gentle or friendly life with the environment.
We have a question from the floor.
Gracias. Me gustaría saber su opinión acerca de las experiencias de formación que se realizaban en espacios de inserción social. Parece que se han ido perdiendo. ¿Sería un buen tiempo para repensarnos, que nos ayuden para estar más cerca de los pobres, para ser amigos de los pobres?
What's your feeling about the insertion communities, especially in formation, as a way to be close to poor people?
Yes, but the experience was very, very good. I participate in some of them. No, I studied philosophy, going to the university and living in a popular area in Caracas, and so many people, and that's helps to be in a popular or poor environment, also with the conditions to study and to not to lose the time or whatever for the studies. But I can give all of you a good news about that. Now in the United States is beginning a new program that is really ambitious in that sense, not only to combine living in a popular area and to go to a good university to have a good level of studies, but to integrate the reflection of the philosophy and what you are living in your areas. Now they are doing that in New York, in a popular area in New York, going to Fordham University, and not only involve Jesuits but also the teachers of philosophy, trying to make the philosophy answer questions that comes from what you are living in your environment and in the connection with the neighborhood, and with the situation of the world. Now in this post-pandemic moment of the world, and in a world where the violence and the war is so present, how that shapes the kind of questions we do to philosophy, and the questions and the answer we can do from a good thinking in a philosophy for this world.
Let's go again here in the aula.
When I pray, I consider like the UAPs, usually I receive a double invitation. An invitation, the first one, to consider my local reality. Now I'm here in Rome, but also in my province in Brazil, to think how can I can apply that to my reality. But a second invitation to think globally. And my question will be, how can we help our formation, the Jesuit formation, to support more this second invitation to work more globally?
Taking seriously what we are. We are the universal. The name is universal apostolic preferences. They are not preference for a particular local situation. No, it's a universal preference. We are part of a universal body, and that's one of the struggles we need to be aware of, because for many Jesuits, or also the majority of the Jesuits, it's very easy to identify with their own work, apostolic work, or their own province. And normally when you find a Jesuit, you say, I am from Brazil, I am Diego from Brazil, I am Arturo from Venezuela, from the Venezuelan province. And that's good to have that kind of roots, but we are only at roots there. We have to have the tree with the rest of the body. So to have also a global experience of the body of the society. And we're supposed to be Catholics, no? and Catholic is really to, if you have really, this is this big difference, no? There are no more Greek and Jews. There are no more slave and free. From the very beginning of the church, the idea of broken the boundaries, and to be and to feel identify with the whole humanity is what make us Christians and Catholics. So this is in a first level, in the deepest level, is a spiritual experience, no? And then that should be also a kind of mentality, no? And for the society, always the two things are together, no? The society also from the very beginning was very interesting in put the roots where you are. So the incarnation, no? Because also our kind of universality is not being in the air, no? It's being always with the feet on earth and the heart in the humanity. Again, spiritual experience, a kind of vision of our thinking, and also the sensibility to really feel what is going on in where you are and the rest of the world. If you are here now, you are here now, and you have to be here now, no? And where you go, but without forgetting where you were before and you are going to be, you don't know.
Thank you. I'll go. I have many things coming from different countries. To Uganda for a moment, briefly. Ignatian spirituality is still in our country reserved for a few, especially the religious. So how can we tap into this great treasure of the Ignatian spirituality to serve more people, and including those who sell vegetables on the streets, he says.
Those?
Who sell vegetables on the street.
Why not? Why not? No, yes. When I hear that question, I remember one Jesuit of my province, of Venezuelan province, called Ignacio Huarte, and he was already dead. You know? And he was in a barrio, in a very popular area, and he started to give the exercises to those who were in the streets, you know, and was a very nice experience, especially with women, with the women within their houses working, and how they can have the motivation, of course, but also to organize their life to do exercises in the ordinary life. So I think this is one of the big gifts we have now in this society. You know, the creativity in the ways of offer the exercise. I think now, in the time I have been living in the society, the multiplication of the ways of offering the exercises is really amazing. So today we have so many ways of offer the exercises to different peoples in different moments, and in different also adapting to the age, to the possibilities, and we have to multiply that, the ways, and we have to also multiply the person that can accompany exercises and they can offer, and that's another big challenge that already we are facing. No, so many people is training, no, for and we are talking about lay people, about religious women and men that they also can accompany the exercises, and we are very happy to have so many others who can really offer the exercises, and because it's not for us. The exercises is an instrument for the humanity, you know, and we desire that so many can do and can accompany and can have that kind of experience.
This question about the women who sell vegetables reminds me of a good article that will be published in the next issue of the annual magazine Jesuits about an experience like this in Argentina. Let's go here.
Merci. Dans la 36e congrégation générale, une question est posée à tous les jésuites. Pourquoi les exercices spirituels ne nous transforment pas aussi profondément que nous l'aurions voulu? Et nous sommes appelés à proposer ces exercices spirituels comme un chemin vers Dieu. Certes, c'est une question à laquelle chacun doit répondre, mais vous, Père Général, qu'en pensez-vous? Pourquoi les exercices spirituels ne nous transforment pas?
At GC 36, it was said, why are not we transformed by the spiritual exercises? We make the spiritual exercises, but we are not transformed. Is there, do you have any, we are not changed. They do not change us. We make the spiritual exercises, but we are not transformed. Do you have something on that?
What is your...
Yes. Not myself. I can also say it by myself, but General Congregation 32, you remember, when this General Congregation 32 tried to define Jesuits, what was the words they used. No, a Jesuit is a sinner. A Jesuit is a sinner. And that is a demonstration that we are not sinners once, we are sinners many times. No? So we need really to overcome that reality, that resistances that are in our interior. So conversion is not one time for all. No, conversion is a process that accompanies us all the long life we have there. That's one. The other is that spiritual exercises, as the name says, is an exercise. So it's an experience that puts you in a path, and you have to walk what you say. You have to walk the path. Or the spiritual exercise will give you the motivation for doing that, will give you the desire to do it, but you have to do it. No? And I remember the old preachers of the exercises used to say that the most difficult day of the exercise is the 9th day. No, the 8 days of the exercises are can be very pleasant. Also the 30, but the 31, 32, or the 9th, 10, 11, there is the real proof. No, so, and that's why the spiritual, Ignatian spirituality points and underlines so much the examine. No, at least 1 or 2 times a day. So, because we need to be always aware, no, because we have good desires, we have good intention, we promise, but we need to be all the time be remembering of that, and the bad spirit, as Ignacio says, is always also in action, not only the good spirit.
Something that comes up in both in the questions that we have received before and now. As a young Jesuit coming from a scientific background, I feel more and more that Western society, and especially young people in the Western society, no longer takes faith seriously because it sees it as being distant from intellectual and scientific world. How do we face this?
Well, I can make a question in parallel. No? Mm-hmm. Did young people 60 years ago take faith seriously? So in what we call the Christianity, young people took faith seriously. Maybe some of them, yes, but it's not automatic. No, take faith seriously is not a problem of a secular society or more religious society. It's an internal experience and really what we call in the exercise is the election to do it. In my own experience or concept, I said that secular society, the real secular society, or the secular society, not in the, because we have different stages, no, in this process, historical process. No, one thing is secularism, no, that is a kind of a fight against religious or religious understanding, and is the secular society that leave people to choice what they want to do, and to really can have really different offers in their eyes, before their eyes. So in a secular society, where also the values are to be free in the election you do, making the choice of being a Christian or being part of the church is serious. It's very serious. So the challenge is how we offer that kind of opportunity to a lot of people. How we offer really the opportunity to many young people and mature people to make the choice of following Jesus in a personal way, and that will also revitalize the communities, because a community, when the community is made because everybody goes to church, I go. And why you go to church? Because it's Christmas or because it's Easter. So it's the time to go to church, not because you are feeling the experience of the Easter or the incarnation of Jesus. Because everybody goes, I go. It's very different if I know, and my choice is to be part of this community and to celebrate what we are living together, also in my own heart. So I think that the secular environment for this generation of Jesuits, for you and for me, is a nice opportunity, and our responsibility is really to take advantage of that and to do it in a creative and passionate way.
Another question from Rome.
Another question related with someone's. You said it's very important, the spiritual conversation, the sharing, etc. But at the same time, we live in an environmental too individualistic, and it's much easier. It's finished the dinner. It's much easier that each one goes to his room, watch his movie, and speak with his parents in another part of the world, or with his friends. How can we work on that? I mean, on the problem, on the individualism in the formation. It's just an individualistic, also, forced or.
Yes, you are pointing at a very important issue, because Jesuit not now, no, time ago have the idea, this temptation of individualism, no? And that's why the last congregations, general congregation, has insist in community as mission. So, community is not to live in the same house. Community is not to have a retreat or every month together, or to have
every year.
But community is a kind of relationship among people who are sharing the same charisms and the same mission, even if they don't work in the same apostolic work. And that doesn't come from heaven. You have to build the community. And individualism is a big temptation that have to be really combat. It's a every day, no? Because all of us want to have their own space, and now with the attached to social media and to be in connection with people who is outside of the physically, is more temptation. But the first phrase I pronounced this afternoon is the Society of Jesus is a religious order. And a religious order is one of the dimensions is community. Community where you live and community with the rest of the body of the society. So that's a point that has to be worked in our life every day.
Just one from an African, but who is doing his tertianship in Lebanon. And it's about one of, the importance of the UAPs in some ways. The Jesuit constitutions and complementary norms remind us of the intellectual nature of the Jesuit ministry. We must never forget the distinctive importance, it's a quotation, of the intellectual quality of our ministries. So, how do you evaluate the intellectual ministry of the society at the moment, its practical way of being lived? How can this dimension help the realization of the UAPs?
Well, I'm very conscious that that's a dimension that is very important for society, the intellectual depth. But I used to say that we are not doctors. No, the intellectual depth is not automatically associated with a degree. No, intellectual depth is a consequence in the Jesuit life. It's a consequence of the spiritual depth, no? Because they are not two dimensions disconnected. Should be connected. And intellectual depth supposes also an academic formation, but it's not enough, the academic formation, for being an intellectual. I am concerned because sometimes our language can treat us, no? And I listen many Jesuits talking about the apostolic, intellectual apostolate. No, it's not an intellectual apostolate. It's apostolic depth of how was formulated by the one who made the question. It's the intellectual depth of everything we do. Everything we do is not intellectual apostolate. Is not the universities or research, no, or a social center research. No, intellectual apostolate is every apostolate promoted by the Society of Jesus. So we have to have the intellectual depth in all we do. So we need the two legs, the spiritual experience and the academical spirit. But if you we need more Jesuits than doctors. And the Jesuit is the one who put these two things together.
Here.
Father General, during your last session, you've shared your insights on how institutions evolve and how institutional effects can change over time. Instead of seeing institutions as a largely unchanging features, you've called us to work towards institutional conversion, highlighting that we are called beyond responding to various changes. I'd like to hear more about your thoughts on how you hope to see Jesuits playing a part in the institutional conversion and finding consolation in this process.
Institutions are very important, no? Because if what can guarantee that our apostolate is the apostolate of the society, of the body. If not, and that happens in some situations, that the work is so associated to one person that will die with that person, or will be only that person can do what, and he cannot. Institutions make possible that an apostolic mission, an apostolic work can be joined by others, by other Jesuits, other persons, and that's important. No, this is the first part. But the institutions also, the tendency, the trend is to be, they acquire their own life, no? And so you cannot touch nothing in the institution, and that's the other part. Now, how the institutions can be also managed in a way that can be a discerning institution, an institution capable to change according to the new necessity, because normally an institution borns because of one to do something especially need in that moment. A school, for example, no? So how the school doesn't stay in the same point when the around is changing, and that's for me the challenge is how we introduce in the way of managing and in the way of conceiving an institution that incorporates discernment as the way of making decisions, no? and to avoid the auto-preservation as the principal goal of an institutions. And that's for the point of view of the Ignatian spirituality, for us Jesuits, internal freedom also regarding the institutions is very important. No? We are not a society to preserve what we have done or what the others have done. No? It's having a personal and as a group the internal freedom to say, is this institution now make sense or other things are better, and what we can change so this can really make sense for this moment. No?
Here I read something probably from Central Europe, although the country is not written, but it is in direct relationship with what you just talked about. He asked, but I will not ask you to answer because I think that you have already done it in some ways. What advice could you give us to connect the desire that we have in our hearts with the reality that we meet in our institutions and not become cynical? So I think that you answered already that question. Let's go here for a moment, and after that I'll take 2 or 3 more questions that are coming from other parts of the world.
Sí, mi pregunta es, nuestra espiritualidad ignaciana nos ha llevado a nosotros los jesuitas a hacer cosas extraordinarias, entre ellas buscar y exigir la justicia en nuestro mundo. ¿Cuál es la estrategia que la compañía está utilizando para acompañar estos procesos?
Procesos
de buscar la justicia, acompañar procesos de...
So our Ignatian Spirituality led us to many extraordinary things. And what are the strategies now so we can be involved in social justice and other extraordinary endeavors?
For me, that's an area where we were talking before about intellectual depth and spiritual depth is joined. No, for example, now, we have heard so many people, so many social media, maybe ourselves, talking about the world having changing because of the pandemic. And what is happening about that? What is the news? Are we really offering a new interpretation of what's happening in the world? Is really the world now better than before the pandemic? No, or maybe it's worse. And why? And are we thinking really about that and offering different options of how to really take advantage of the experience of the pandemic to change what are the causes of that injustice? I think for the Society of Jesus and for the Church and for humanity, but for us as Jesuits, this big challenge of offering new ways of understanding the relationship between the human beings, so things like the pandemic do not become more causes of injustice is a big challenge, I think we are going to talk about that, I think so, in the next assembly of the Jesuit University in August. No, one of the issue will be this, how our university centers can really offer some kind of thinking about what means economy, what means social institutions, to really change the world.
We have less than 5 minutes. This is also related to a question from a novice from the United States. You don't have to answer, but he says many of the students think he's in the campus ministry helping at the moment. Many of the students think that the church is not listening to young people, and many of them are leaving because they don't see that we're addressing social justice issues. So you see that you just said that the next meeting of the universities, of the Jesuit universities, this topic will be addressed. Another one in the same dimension is working in a secondary school and talks about parents who are saying that their kids are not really interested in in the spiritual dimension, and he's asking, how can we help these parents? But maybe it's. Do you want to say a few words about that?
Yes,
Yes,
because I want to say one comment about that is when we say that the church is not addressing, what is the meaning of church there? No, we church, because if you take, let's take the top of the church, the Pope. If you take the speeches and you take the documents, the most important documents of the church, it's all about social justice. All about social justice. No? Fratelli tutti. What it is. Laudato si. What it is. No? Amoris Laetitia. What it is to change the world about that. No? The top. No? And so many people is engaged in that. No? If we make a list of how many people does, for example, now, who is taking care of migrants? How many Christian communities are really accompanying migrants in all the process? Or how many people is engaged in other thinking or action? Many, and there is other part of the church that is not allowed, not on that. But it's very dangerous to make generalizations. No? Many generalizations. So I think in this moment, the church is inviting us and all humanity to a big change. Only if we take seriously what Fratelli Tutti is asking for the humanity, not for the church. No, an example, for example, to avoid life penalty, for example. Or really to take seriously politics as a way of seeking for the common good. No? Who now, if you take an institution that is working for peace in this moment, who is?
No, I agree entirely that the image that so many people, including young people, have of the church is of a church of the past, and they don't realize the actuality and the reality of our church. To finish it, maybe with a smile in the question, but it's a question that comes from Venezuela, a place that you might have known. We are in a very interesting period in the church. I translate. We have a Holy Father who continues to be a Jesuit. But what will we do with a successor is not really in this line. It produces some kind of incertidumbre in our environment, that question.
But trust God. It's not in our hands, no? And you can remember also in the life of St. Ignatius, some of the Jesuits in the beginning, they were also concerned about who is going to be the next pope, and the next pope was a big enemy of the first Jesuits. And he said, we obey the Pope, whatever he is, because we don't depend on the Pope or on the bishops, or we depend on God. We trust God, and the next Pope should also trust God and follow the guide of the Spirit.
Trusting in God. That's quite a good program for any Jesuit information, I suppose. I thank you very much, you who have been here with us this afternoon. I thank all those who have been following us. I'll be happy to see the numbers eventually. And I ask your forgiveness to those who didn't have the opportunity either to ask a question here, or that I had so many questions here. During the last few minutes, it was difficult for me to try to choose, among those we had received. But thank you very much. This is not the end of the Universal Apostolic Preferences. We are not yet in 2029. And I suppose that you will have a few more ways to live these preferences. Thank you again, Father Arturo.